Welcome to Sodo Creations, where we make your imagination a reality. Thank you for tuning in once again for another video. If you are already subscribed to the channel, I appreciate you for coming every week to watch these tutorials. I'm hoping they help you. If they do, please give it a like. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. Hope you consider subscribing or liking the video. By the end of the video, hope you learned something. I like to share my mistakes with you when I do have mistakes so that you can also learn and not repeat my mistakes. So I'm cutting out the pictures that I drew out. So I just found these pictures on Google that did not have a backdrop, ordered the prints to be printed at Office Depot, and I printed it on 18 by 24. So Peppa Pig is 24 inches tall, just a little shy of 24 inches tall, and George, of course, is shorter than her. So I have them printed. It's on cardstock, and I'm just cutting it out. This is a heavier duty cardstock. You want to cut out and make sure you have a base at the bottom so it can stand. So here I'm just trying to figure out where I want my base, and I decide to go with the outline of the skirt all the way down. So I just want to cut with a border. It's up to you if you want the border. I just thought the border would look nice based on the picture that my friend sent as her inspo for the backdrop. When I get pictures from clients, I try my best. I don't promise, but I try my best to make it look like the inspo picture. So I think if you watched the previous tutorial of the actual balloon backdrop, you see the inspo picture that I inserted in there. If you didn't, then I'll link that video tutorial down below. Again, aligning with that skirt so we have a base, so you can see the bottom there. I'm not going to cut any more. The good thing is it's already aligned with the cardstock, so I don't have to try to make a straight line now. So that is cut out already. Now I'm going to try to find a piece of foam board that is big enough to glue this whole backboard on, or the whole prop on. So I have those two pieces. Of course, I've used this for several. This is the glue I'm gonna use. It's called a bond cement or something like that. The downside of it is that it dries very fast, so you have to be careful when using it. I use this particular foam board for my Barbie foam Barbie box, if you remember that video. So I just have the rest of it. I'm just gonna work my way with that glue all around. It's kind of like a nail polish but it's thicker, so you just kind of put that on and then you tape. But the other thing is the glue dries pretty fast, so you'll notice by the time I go work my way around and I'm getting back to this part where I started, it's pretty tacky, so it's not and I have to reinforce. So I speed up applying there, and I'm gonna align. Since the bottom is already straight, I'm gonna align it to the bottom and then glue that on. So that is it. There's a little spot there that needs to be glued, and I'm just gluing that piece down. Easy. So the easy part is done. We're gonna repeat the same thing with George, except this time, since I know the glue dries pretty fast, I decide to go to glue a section at a time instead of the whole thing all at once. So once I can get that glue on the bottom part, I align it with the foam board and just glue that down. Then we're going to turn it around so we can then apply the glue on the section that doesn't have glue. We'll just do several sections and then work our way through here. So this is a fun theme for kids. My kids love watching Peppa Pig as well, so it's pretty funny. I haven't really sat down to watch a full episode, but I've listened to parts of it and I like it. It's pretty funny. So here we have this part all glued down, and the next part here is going to have to be cutting out all around. So I'm removing the excess glue there that overlap, just so it's not sticky onto the actual picture, because this is a matte print, so it's printed on matte, not a high gloss, which I guess I could have printed on a high gloss. I just thought the matte would look better and not have a glare to it. So now we're using a very sharp box cutter to cut around. So if you have I have that blade there on the table that I use sometimes, but it's not as sharp and I didn't have a replacement for it. So I just found this box cutter in the garage, and that's what I'm using to cut, and it's pretty sharp, so it's doing a good job. It's harder to cut around the corners or around arches on the backdrop, but I just work my way around, and also I'm able to cut it and look at the back of my picture where it didn't cut through, and just kind of connect the lines at that point. So you'll see how I do that as well through this design. So again, the lines of these parts are pretty smooth, and I'm trying to cut as close as possible to the actual cutout, so I'm not trying to create more of the foam over. So I'm cutting right where I initially did my cutout. I'm just going with that line, and a little hard to see because they're both white, but then eventually, so you can see there, I'm trying to connect those parts that were not cut out, and it pops it right out. So that is how I do the base for the foam board. Again, this looks hard, but trust me, the hard part is coming. Like I said, I show you my mistakes, and I have several in this video, so I hope you learn from it, and you're able to see what not to do, and I explain to you exactly what to do eventually. So Peppa Pig is pretty much done. There you have her done and ready to stand once we can figure out the stand, which is the hardest part. So that is the final. Now her fingers or her hoofs at the end there are just straight. I didn't realize when I chose the image that it was straight. So because I'm OCD, I want to color in that part. She'll look like she has nail polish or something, but I have to find the right pink to match and just fill that in or round it up so that it's not just a straight line. I'll show you once I'm done with that part. It took a couple of colors here to figure out which one was gonna work, but then I figured it out, and I just kind of round it on the left hand or left foot, I guess. It's not too bad. So there I fixed as best as I can, and then we're gonna move on to George. So I have my foam board on the bottom so I don't cut my table. I've done that before, but I tried the other box cutter and it was too dull, so this one worked okay. I'm just gonna continue with it and work my way around. So George here is pretty much done. I'm cutting through the back, just connecting the spots where it didn't cut through. It's mostly around those arches, so I'm cutting that out, and there it pops right off. So that's done. Again, don't forget to leave your base so that your prop is gonna stand. Now I'm gonna measure. I'm finding the video here of where I saw the stand. It's not a tutorial. The guy just showed how he stood up his backdrop or whatever, and that's what I want to recreate for this prop. So I'm measuring the width here, and I'll measure the height, and then I have to figure out how exactly this mechanics works. So I'm gonna cut out what I think I can, and then I'll work my way through trying to get it all done. So measuring the width, the height, tracing all that out, and giving it a cut. Again, I'll have a couple of mistakes throughout here, even though I have that video trying to figure it all out. It's getting late, but I need to get this done because the event is the very next day. So I'm cutting it all out, tracing first. I have to get my image just right, so I have that right next to me so I know what I'm doing. And it just shows how he opens it and props his design up, and then I'm scoring the card and I try to fold it. You can see the slit, how I cut it all the way down. That was the first mistake, because since it's all the way down, when I fold it, it's not gonna hold the card because I cut the wrong area. Now I have two loose pieces that once I fold over, they end up overlapping, as you can see right there as I'm holding it with my thumb. Now I'm trying to figure out, how do I hold that in place where it doesn't fall apart, where those two overlap? Do I redo this? Do I just wing it? What do I do? So I end up redoing it because I am who I am, because I don't want to have to do this another time. So I'm drawing it out again, trying to make sure this time I don't cut that slit all the way through. But once I'm done cutting all of this, I realized that I made another mistake and I cut the wrong part that is supposed to kind of flag through. You'll understand all this when I explain the full thing to you, for you to be able to replicate it, which I'm going to, but I want to make sure that you know the errors that I make. So I'm getting the slit right this time. I'm not cutting it all the way to that middle line, and I score it again. But then when I go, I cut through. That was the second mistake. I wasn't supposed to cut that line all the way through because it has to come out wholly, but I figured that's the error I did. So then I go get some duct tape to hold that in place before it comes out, pops out all the way. And eventually, I guess mistake number 3 is I duct tape way more than I should have. I was supposed to just do half of that semicircle, but then now I'm trying to figure out, okay, it works, I'll have to do with this, and then I have to cut the duct tape on that end again so that the flap actually holds. So I'll explain to you the right way to do this. You see me yawning, but this is how I'm gonna do the right thing. Our width this time is gonna be 8, like the base. So I measure 8 on the bottom, and our height is 18. So go 18. But I want to go about halfway from 18. So I'll go 9. 9. So we somewhat create a cross. Now I'm gonna measure 8 again. Just put a dot and see if that is about where that is. 18 is right here. Go over. I'm just gonna put a line. And 9 is right here. So we'll draw a line where the 9 is, so we know where to cut out that other piece. And our top will be right here. We'll draw another line. So that's our diagram. So height, base, but this has to be half. But what I do is, since I want more of a wing, this part to be bigger than the part that's on the back. So since I have 8, I'm gonna do 5 here, the bottom, and then 5 at the top for our wing. Let's just call it a wing. But the wing is not quite straight, it's at an angle, so we'll put our angle about 3. So right there. So now we're gonna draw a line from here to the very corner for our wing, and then draw another line straight down. Now the bottom this is what we have so far. So this is our wing, this is the part that will be attached to the back of the pig. Here, down here, you don't want to keep it straight, because once you move it over, you don't want it scraping the floor, and then however much you go up, the more it's gonna tilt back. So if you go very little, then you just have a little tilt and your picture will stand upright. So we want to barely cut right there. So I'm just gonna trace a little bit, a little angle. Like so. Right there. So now I'm gonna cut all this around. Actually, let me do this part so we're done with the explanation, then I'll cut around and explain this part. This is the tricky part, that middle. So now we're going to measure. I think I like this dimension. I did a 1.5 on both sides of that cross. So right here. Then I had 2 inches high. And from the 2 inches, we want to come down by maybe 1 inch for our hole that it's gonna slide into. So we're gonna go like this. It's our slit. This doesn't have to be perfect, but I like it more domed than pointed. We're gonna cut this piece out so that we can, it's that piece that slides in here. So you want to make sure it's wide enough for this to go through. So you have room on both sides. Okay, I'm gonna cut this out, cut this, and then I'll show you how we score so that we can fold. So what we have, I'm gonna cut right here. So that's what we have so far. So we're gonna score this line to here and from here down. That'll make this part open so it'll fold backwards. But for it to go backwards, this has to be cut. So I'm gonna cut this out so that it folds out. Gonna fold it. You see how when you're folding, so the side that is bending out, you want that popping out of there. So that's what we have right there. This would be glued on. Now this piece here is supposed to fold down and fit in this, but for it to fold down this way, this part has to be scored. So we're just going to score that. And let it fold. And there we have it. Let me explain that again. So once you draw your picture, you're going to score down this line up to here. Don't score here. So draw down to here and from here all the way down and score out. So where the wing is where you, actually where the wing is where you cut open. So score, score, and score on the side that's going on your board. Then create a cut from the middle out. So when you fold it back, this will fold down and hold that in place. Now I'm gonna glue this part onto the backdrop. Same here, we're gonna glue. This one's a bit stiff because I had the tape here. I made a mistake. But this part, I'm going to glue this onto that other backdrop. So let's do that. I don't need this anymore. So I want to find out where it's centered. So to put it right in the middle, I think. I want to go here and leave that right there. So we're going to put it right here, like so. So that it's in the middle. So you want that middle piece centered, not perfectly, but I'm going to just draw a line. Just to give me a reference of where I'm gonna place this. So just go right there. And remember, you're not gluing this part down. So to be safe, I'm just gonna fold that in. That way I only put glue right here. This glue dries very fast.